Welcome then to ESPN FC Live. I'm Dan Thomas on the day that the bracket is now set for the quarterfinals of the Euros. In today's show, we'll be looking ahead to those quarterfinals, plus reflecting on what we saw today. Beth and Sam are with us, and as I'm proudly wearing the three lions, Beth, they managed to avoid any sort of banana skin when it came to the Welsh. And in the end, as a contest, it was over after 10 minutes, after that penalty was awarded early, and that was pretty much it, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, an unfortunate way for the game to start for Wales, obviously set the tone for what ended up being a difficult night. But from an England perspective, ultimately, they just had a job to do. And you could tell straight away that, they came out all guns blazing, showed absolutely no mercy to Wales and some really good, really well-worked goals as well. And yeah, I mean, it's probably not the truest reflection of England's, of where they're at the moment. Wales, as much as it's been fantastic to see them at this tournament and all of the sort of the sentimental reasons and great for them to get a couple of goals as well, that there is a gulf in quality between them and England in terms of the calibre of players in the squad. So there'll be much tougher tests to come, but ultimately today was just about getting the job done, and England did it and were ruthless in the way that they went about the business.
Yeah, ruthless with 6 different goal scorers, Sam.
Yeah, I think that was important as well. I think it was nice for Alessia Russo to get a goal. Obviously, she's been having a really good tournament, but she's been creating goals. She's had a couple ruled out for offside. So I think it was nice for her to finally get on the score sheet going into the knockout rounds, to have that sort of, that weight off her mind, if you will, going into it will be a big game now against Sweden. Obviously, also a nice goal for Beth Mead, Beaver Jones off the bench. Also really good for them just to have it going into the knockout rounds. But a bit like what Beth said, really, it was just important to get the win. I think the thing, they're always likely to beat Wales. I think the manner of the win was convincing enough for us to sort of completely not write off that France defeat or that France performance, but as a continuation of the Netherlands result, it puts them in a good place going into the knockout stages.
Yeah, that's interesting. We'll talk about whether or not, in fact, it was a blessing in disguise when it comes to the bracket in a moment, Beth. But do you think it kind of gave everyone a kick up the backside and a bit of a reality check? The manner, of course, in which they lost that opening game, given what we've seen from the second and third tie in this group stage?
Yeah, I think the most worrying thing with that first game wasn't necessarily the result. It was, as Sam said, it was the performance. England, bar the first 10 minutes, was so poor in that game, and they were second best. They lost pretty much every single duel. All of those 50-50s went France's way, and France just looks a lot sharper, a lot more determined, a lot more aggressive. And I think that was a reality check. You can have off days, but when you get to a major tournament, you're going to get punished if you have an off day, particularly when you're up against a team as strong as France are and as ruthless as they are. We've seen that obviously with them tonight coming back against the Netherlands as well. So yeah, I think it was in a way maybe a little bit of a blessing. I think, as you say, in a sense, that the bracket and the quarterfinal draw and the semi-final draw that England are now going to go on to have, it is probably slightly more favourable. But ultimately, I think it just reminded everyone, fans and the players as well, that when you get to this stage and you get to playing at a major tournament against these top nations, you can't afford to take your foot off the gas even one bit. And I think England, the way they've responded has been brilliant, and hopefully they can carry that on into the quarterfinals.
And something we haven't been used to of late, Sam, back-to-back victories.
Yeah, back-to-back victories. Just coming back to the point that Beth's making, well, what you were saying really about the motivation as well. I mean, tournaments are filled with, teams that go on to win it who lost the first game. I mean, England didn't win the World Cup in 2015, but Lucy Bronze has made that point that they lost the first game there, and that sort of galvanised them to go on and get to the semi-finals, which was sort of, new ground for them at that stage. Obviously, we just have to go back to the last Men's World Cup and Argentina losing their first game and going on to the World Cup. So I don't think that matters too much now. It is interesting with the draw now. I don't know how soon we want to come on to it, but it was a bit of a case like, I mean, I suggested that perhaps Sweden would beat Germany. They're probably quite similar teams, but it's a bit of a, would you rather have Sweden now and then possibly, Italy or Norway in a semi-final, or would you rather play Germany now and then have to play Spain? So I think England, through a little bit of luck, have ended up like coaches will say there's no favourable side of the draw, but I think it's definitely a better route to the final. Although to win the tournament, you're probably going to have to beat Spain anyway. at some point.
100%. Let's take a look at the bracket a little later on, but let's just focus on that remaining game that we saw, which of course being played at the same time, France against the Netherlands. And this was an interesting time because of course 2-1, and you thought, well, the Dutch have a chance here to cause a bit of an upset to a team that many have been so impressed with so far. But then France really turned it on, didn't they, in the second half, Beth?
Yeah, they did. I mean, I've been really, really impressed with them over the course of the tournament. I think tonight obviously showed that they do have weaknesses and they can be got at. But I think, you know, it's a huge check against the name that they've overcome, because they must have been feeling some pressure when they went behind, knowing that the job wasn't done for them. You know, coming into tonight's games, they probably felt and looked on paper like the safest bet to be going through to the quarterfinals. And so for there to be a point in the game when that was hanging in the balance a little bit, for them to respond in the way that they did, and some great goals as well. Cascarino has been a fantastic player over the course of this tournament and was fantastic again tonight, getting a couple of goals as well. But yeah, they're just ruthless, France, and they've got so many good goal scorers. And yeah, maybe defensively, without the likes of Wendy Renard in the team, there is areas where they can be got at, which I think we saw in flashes. But yeah, they've got to be among the favourites now going forward into the rest of the tournament.
And Sam, it's a great thing about tournaments like this. If you didn't know who Delphine Cascarino was going into the start of this tournament, you certainly do now. What a talent.
Yeah, she's been absolutely brilliant. I'm sure all the guys in the US obviously know all about her, obviously playing over there in the NWSL. But yeah, she's been fantastic in the tournament. Her first goal tonight was absolutely brilliant. I thought she was fantastic against England as well. Obviously, Baltimore as well on the other flank against England. France are a bit of a funny one, because after that first game against England, I was thinking, hello, they could be a really serious team. It's difficult to judge their performance against Wales because they made so many changes, but they weren't as good despite winning 4-1. And again tonight, back to their full strength team, even winning 5-2 again. There was that spell in the second half where they turned it on, but in the first half as well, they weren't great. So I'm a little bit unsure now whether they have the potential to sort of, you know, really test the Spain or even in England again if they were to get to the final and meet England again. I'm in a little bit in two minds. Obviously, that attacking talent, you know, Cascarino in such great form. Baltimore, we've mentioned the midfield has been good. But, I mean, sometimes I think perhaps we're grasping at straws a little bit. We do it with Spain a little bit, saying, oh, you can get them from set pieces or you can beat them in transition. And perhaps maybe I'm doing that a little bit with France because they're sensational in attack.
Let's then take a look at the aforementioned bracket then, as it's all set. Of course, the game's being played once a day, Wednesday, all the way through to Saturday. And I feel it's fair we go through chronologically. Anybody who says there's no easy side to this bracket is lying, because obviously it's all worked out beautifully for England in the sense they finished second, which means they avoid that potential semi-final against Spain. They are arguably obviously in the easier side of the bracket. We'll talk about their clash with Sweden in a moment, but let's start off, shall we, Beth, with Norway against Italy. What do we need to know about this one?
Yeah, so I'm going to be covering that one. I'm out in Geneva, so that's going to be the first one of the quarterfinals. And yeah, Norway are such an interesting team because they're stacked with so much attacking talent in particular, and they've got so many big names. You know, the likes of Caroline Green Hansen, Ada Hegberg, you know, Gero Wright, and so many top players who play for the best teams, and yet they never really seem to live up to sort of what they are individually when they're put together as a collective, and whether that's a management thing or you know, I'm not quite sure. So it's hard sometimes to know what you're going to get from them. I think in the group stages, they've not particularly impressed me, but they've got the job done. And, you know, there is something to be said for that. There's something to be said for a team that can just go about the business and do just enough to get through. And they certainly have the experience to be able to go deep into a tournament. I was at Italy's game against Portugal earlier in the week in Geneva again. And that was it. It was a hugely entertaining game. Obviously, Portugal come back and managed to snatch a point late on. But for the most part in that game, Italy were really good. They impressed me. They've impressed me this tournament, actually. You know, they didn't qualify for the last Euros, so they've come a long way, I think, over the past couple of years. So I think it will be close. I think it will be really close. I think in terms of performance, I think that they'll be quite evenly matched. I just think that Norway's experience might just give them a slight edge in the end.
Beth's saying 100%, no doubt about it. Norway are going through to the semi-finals. Sam, do you agree?
No, I'm going the other way. Obviously, a lot of the points that Beth makes there, I agree with about Norway. Maybe it sounds a little bit harsh because they've just come through the group with 9 points. I didn't see their final game because obviously they clashed with the Switzerland game, which I was following. But I saw their first two games. I thought they were, you know, perhaps they certainly didn't deserve to win against Switzerland or Finland in their first two games. And they've had this problem for years where they haven't quite managed to get the players to click together. I still don't think that's completely gone away. I think they would perhaps be better without Hegerberg in the team now. I'm not sure whether she could be sort of a potential problem to how they flow in attack. And I've just got a feeling for Italy. They showed against Spain that they can compete against good teams. They've got good players. They see this is a huge opportunity for them. I think perhaps there will be pressure on the Norway team. Although I don't know if we should be pushing for Norway, because of course they're the only team left in the competition with an English manager. But I think if I had to bet one way, I'd go for Italy.
Meanwhile, then the winners of that tie will take on either the victors of Sweden against England. So many different subplots, Beth, going into this game.
Yeah, definitely. And, England and Sweden have faced each other quite a few times over the past couple of years. They obviously faced each other in the semi-finals at the last Euros, and England won that game super convincingly 4-0. It obviously produced that fantastic Alessia Russo back heel goal. It's still probably one of my favourite England goals to watch. I can't see it being quite as emphatic if England do win this time. Sweden have got the number a little bit more. They've played each other a few times in the Nations League, and there've been some really close encounters and really sort of end-to-end pretty evenly matched games. So yeah, I think I'd probably, if I had to pick, maybe my England heart would go for England just about. But I think, I've seen a little bit of Sweden and I've been really, really impressed with them. I think they're a strange side because, the past sort of 5-10 years or so, they're always sort of there or thereabouts. And they never really get talked about among the favourites. But again, you look at the squad, they've got so much talent in there. The manager, Peter Carlson, is moving on at the end of this tournament. So again, whether that has a bit of a galvanising effect, maybe, of wanting to do it for him. He's had a really successful time in charge there. And the fans sing ABBA in the stands, which to me is a huge tick against the name. But yeah, I think it will be quite a close one. I think England will edge it, just because of the fact that they've been there and got over the line before. But I think it will be close.
Wait, Beth, you hate ABBA? Is that what we're taking out of that?
No, absolutely not. If I could put someone through purely based on the song choice, it would be okay. It would be for me.
All right.
There's not enough
ABBA over Sweet Caroline.
Oh, every day of the week.
Yeah. So who's going through then, Sweet Caroline or ABBA, Sam?
I do agree with Beth. I do think, and it's not with sort of England will definitely win. I think it'll be really, really close. I do really like Sweden. I just think England, seeing the last two games, I think they've got something between their teeth again. Perhaps some of the Swedish players are just slightly more of an aging squad than England. Perhaps when you look at Essiani, Blackstenius, Fridolina Rolfo, players who've been there and done it a lot. But perhaps it's going to be a tight game that goes a difference. Perhaps England will have a little bit more energy. I have a feeling England will win it, but it's a tough one to call. It could go either way, that one.
Meanwhile, the other side of the bracket, Spain taking on Switzerland. Beth, is it fair to say that this is the easiest of the four ties to predict?
Well, it is, but then you say that and you never know. This could be the one that throws up the biggest surprise. But yeah, it's hard to look past anyone, Spain against anyone. I think they absolutely have to be the favourites to go on and win the tournament. And certainly against Switzerland, they impressed me so much in their opening game against Norway. They were so unlucky not to win that one. Then obviously they go on, they win the second game in Bern, and deservedly so. And then I was at the game the other night where they just about managed to clinch qualification, and it's been so lovely. I was traveling on the day of that game from Zurich back to Geneva, and sort of even in Zurich, hours and hours before kickoff, everywhere was filled with fans wearing Switzerland shirts, and the train was packed with fans traveling to watch. And it is really special, and it inspires this hope that it could really start something here in Switzerland in terms of women's football and the exposure. So, that home advantage, I think, will be massive. I'm sure the fans will be out in force again. But yeah, I think Spain are far and away the better team. And yeah, even though they maybe showed a few vulnerabilities against Italy, I can't see past Spain winning that one.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it, to put up a strong argument, apart from the fact, obviously, that Spain might have an off day and Switzerland will be the home side, Sam.
Yeah, like you say, I think the other three semi-finals, the other three quarterfinals are more or less, not much more 50-50 either way. Obviously, one might be 60-40 or whatever, but I think this one is, Switzerland, I'd probably give like a 2%, 1% chance or something like that. Like you said, I think it is nice. It still does have a nice sort of feel going into the final because it's against the hosts, because of the sort of momentum that's getting behind Switzerland. I think almost because they have sort of stumbled their way to the quarterfinals, it's sort of almost galvanized them even more, as opposed to if they, if they'd have beaten Norway and then won the next one. The fact that they had to score late goals in their second and third games, especially that third game, that late equaliser, was almost given sort of like something to sort of really celebrate and really get behind. And you're sort of seeing that they had an open training session today, which they announced at the last minute, which only had 4,000 people allowed in, and they were it was filled up straight away. You're really sort of seeing the support for the team around the country. Obviously, it's in Bern, where there's a huge sort of support for the national team. There's going to be 30,000 Switzerland fans probably in the Wankdorf Stadium, probably maybe a few hundred, maybe 1,000 or so from Spain. There's going to be overwhelming support for Switzerland. Can that have an effect? Can that play against Spain? No, I don't think so.
And finally, is it fair to say like the marquee, the headline act of these quarterfinals is the final game, Beth, France against Germany?
Yeah, I think it's probably the closest one, definitely. Probably just edges Sweden and England for that one. And yeah, it's difficult because Germany are such a strange team. I thought they've not massively impressed, but obviously they did enough in those first two group games, and then obviously they go and you would expect sort of them and Sweden to have been pretty evenly matched. And obviously I know Germany get a red card, so that skews things a little bit, but they got sort of emphatically beaten by Sweden. And whether that does something for their confidence or whether it is galvanizing and it makes them think, we're going to go out there and show what we can do. France, as we've said, we touched on earlier on, so good from an attacking perspective, but they do have vulnerabilities at the back. So again, I think it'll come down to probably sort of who can score more goals. I think at this moment in time, I'd probably just edge with France, just because I think they look like they're really enjoying themselves. They're playing some really good football. They look really energized, really energetic. Whereas Germany at times have looked a little bit sort of stilted, a little bit jaded. So I'm gonna give it to France. But again, I think it probably is the marquee fixture and will be really entertaining to watch.
Final word goes to you, Sam.
Yeah, I'm going France as well. I actually think I find this one easier to call. I might be completely wrong on all four predictions, but for me, I find this one easier to call than the England-Sweden game. I do think France will be too much for Germany in attack. Obviously, they've lost captain Gwyn to injury. Her replacement, Ramsey, who came in, has been sent off, so I don't know what they're going to do at right back, how they're going to get their defence together. And obviously, France is so dangerous on the wing. It's going to be a big problem for Germany. So I think France will win that one.
Couple of rest days, guys, for you now. Beth, what are you going to do with yourself?
Yeah, so I mean, it's been lovely weather here, as it has been back at home in the UK, I believe. But it's been gorgeous. So I think we'll just be having a little saunter around the lake, a little swim as well, which is quite nice. And yeah, all the locals, you can see them jumping in at the end of a work day into Lake Geneva. It's a really nice atmosphere, and yeah, a beautiful place. So if anyone is coming here over the next couple of weeks, I'm sure people will love it because it's a beautiful place and a beautiful country. But yeah, some nice chill time by the lake, I think.
The Switzerland tourist board are going to love you, Beth. Sam, a saunter and a swim for you as well?
No rest days here. There'll be lots of media activity around the Spain camp over the coming days. There's a press conference tomorrow. We don't know who with yet. At midday on Tuesday or Wednesday, there'll be some individual interviews ahead of the quarterfinals. So we'll be getting down with that. That's one of the great things about the tournaments as well, is some of the access you get and the chances you get to speak to the players and the coaches and stuff involved and get a feel for what's going on. So that's going to be the next couple of days. And yeah, maybe the afternoons, maybe a little bit of sightseeing if I get time, or some lake action around Lausanne.
You sounded a lot more professional.
Yeah,
a lot more professional.
Yeah, exactly. That's all right, Beth. You sound like you have more fun. Good stuff, guys. Thank you very much. Just a reminder, ESPN FC, of course, covering the Euros in depth. Our reporters on the ground in Switzerland to keep up to date with all the latest news. Be sure to keep an eye out on our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't.